If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. I am Aaron. I'm a marathon runner and former infantry marine. I ran thousands of miles and 11 official races in both marathons and half marathons. As the years passed since my last marathon in 2018, life happened and I put on some extra weight. When I would attempt to restart running again, I would often end up spending more time nursing nagging injuries than running miles on the track. In 2025, I had enough of that pattern and decided I was going to lose this weight so that I could get back to running marathons. I've dropped 25 pounds so far, and I'm halfway to my goal that will allow me to start my marathon training program again. I am documenting my journey to lose weight and return to running marathons and fill that last empty spot on my rack of marathon medals. Please join me on my road to redemption, and if you find value in this journey, please like and subscribe. So, you're 40 plus years old and you want to run your first marathon. Where do you start? Well, the first place you start is with your doctor. It wouldn't hurt to get a cardiac calcium test. I think that's what I got. I'm 52. I ran my first marathon when I was 40 years old, San Diego, California. So, first place you start with your doctor. Tell him or her, I want to run a marathon. I'd like to have a cardiac calcium score test, whatever it is. He'll know what I'm talking about. It's more dependable than an EKG. An EKG is like a couple seconds snapshot. This does a more thorough test. So you're gonna want to know that, right? And that helps you to kind of formulate your plan and if it's a realistic plan. So the next thing is building a base. Don't make the mistakes I've made. I mean, I trained like a madman for my first marathon, but I hopped in mileage too quick. And then I had to go back. I didn't have to, but at the urging of my running coaches at the time, I chose to. So I would say start walking and, listen to your body. When you get older, you really got to get in tune with listening to your own body. I've ran thousands of miles and 11 official races, marathons and half marathons. I don't count the 5Ks and stuff, but not that they don't count, they count. And that's a good point, is starting small, right? You build your base, you start walking, okay? Can you run a mile? If you can run a mile a couple days a week. As a general rule of thumb, and I've probably heard me say this before if you're watching this channel, don't increase your miles by more than 10% on any given week. I would say realistically, if you're coming from a couch to a marathon, I would plan on, depending on your condition, I'd plan on about an 8-month training schedule. If you're in good shape, you can do a 4 to 5 month training schedule, depending on what kind of shape you're in. If you're in endurance shape or you've been lifting in a gym, each case is different, right? So the first thing, see your doctor. The second thing, start to build your base. And then after you build your base, you start to run a little bit and give your body days to rest in between, a day at least. Maybe the first week you run twice. If you're out of shape, maybe the first 2 months you run twice. Or maybe you run 3 times, but you only run a mile at a time. And maybe you walk 2 miles, right? So it's different from case to case. It's hard to make a general plan based on everybody's needs. But if you do have questions, put them in the comments and tell me about your specific case, and I'd be happy to help you out with the plan. That's what it's all about, right? I ran my first marathon when I was 40 years old, and I ran for the next, I was almost 41, I guess, so I ran for pretty heavily for the next 5 years. And then life happened, I moved, and I've only ran one race, and my last race was in 2018 when I got to Texas. So now it's 2025, and I'm 52 years old, and I'm working my way back to running a marathon. And I've gained some excessive weight, and my first part of that plan is to get the weight off before I start adding up the miles, right? Because if not, I'll end up injured. I won't end up running. I won't accomplish my goals. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. And Bob will be pissed off. My name's not Bob, but if it was, I would be pissed. Anyways, so after you start to get some miles underneath your belt and build that base, then you can start to look at a plan. And I would say don't even schedule a marathon until you're about 4 months out, maybe 6 months out. Start looking at a marathon. If you're serious, if you're making progress in your training plan, if you're able to be consistent, right? Because any training plan is gonna have you running 3, what we call maintenance runs a week, and then a long, slow distance run, or what you'll hear marathoners call an LSD run. And sometimes in those maintenance runs, if you're really concerned about speed of a marathon and not just doing the distance, you'll do like 2 maintenance runs, 1 speed work run, and then an LSD run. So you're looking at running 3 to 4 days a week minimum, right? And you gotta be honest with yourself. Am I gonna be able to do that? You know, what time could I carve out? If you're a parent, you know, that can be tough, especially if you're a single parent. And you don't have a spouse there to support you or a partner there to support you, right? It can be tough. So you got to kind of plan out the logistics of it. And then I'd say the next thing that you really got to think about is nutrition. There's a lot that goes into nutrition for a marathon run, right? And it's not just carb loading, right? It's carb loading is towards the end, right? When you get into your long, slow distance run, you got to start planning out nutrients if you're deep into a marathon plan, right? You start to get above, for me, when I got beyond 10 miles, that's when I would start to take nutrients to help my body continue, right? And as you get older, it doesn't get easier. So I'm sure you already know that, just like I do. But, you know, as you get older, it may be less than 10 miles you need nutrients. You know, there's goo packs, there's all kinds of things. And if you have questions on different nutrients and stuff like that, don't hesitate to post what you would think about using down in the comments, and I can look at it and tell you what I think about it. I've used all kinds of different nutrients, some good, some bad. But the key in marathon training is making sure that your body is used to these nutrients, that your digestion system can handle it before you get to the actual race, right? And, you know, in the Marine Corps, we would say, you fight the way you train. And in marathon running, it's like you're gonna run your race the way you've trained. And come race day, you shouldn't be changing anything, because that can be really bad news and it can rain on your parade a whole series of ways. But those are some of my tips to start if you're 40 plus, or quite honestly, even if you're younger. But if you're 40 plus, you really got to start looking, you know, paying attention to your body a lot more, because it gets harder on your body. So that's it for me. I'm out here. I think I ran a little over a mile today. I'm about 25 pounds down, and I got about 25 more to go before I can really start throwing in some serious miles and pushing myself. Now, today was one of those days where you feel good and your ego tells you, I know I could just bust out 5 miles, but my discipline has to keep my ego in check, and that's how I prevent injury. That and good gear. And that's another thing that you got to think about with a marathon. Speaking of which, so good gear. It pays to get good running shoes. It pays to go to a good running store if you plan on seriously running, and have somebody in a specific running store, not like a sporting goods store or something like that. I'm talking about a store that specializes in running, so that you can have somebody look at your gait, tell you if you need a control shoe or what type of shoe you need. There's different types of shoes. Try them on in there. And then if you need an insole, I just started using insoles and I think it's helping me. A lot of different good running shoes out there. I only run in Brooks because that's what I've ran the majority of my races in. I think out of the 11 races, I ran 9 of them in Brooks, and the other 2 I regretted not running in Brooks. But that's just me. Everybody's different. Some people prefer different shoes. But find out what works for you. Get some good running gear. Get some anti-chafing stuff. Get some decent running shoes. And if you need to get a gym membership because it's the winter, you don't want to run outdoors. I lived in Michigan. I know what that's like. Now I'm in Texas. Now I have to think about getting a gym membership in the summer so that I can run inside so I'm not dying from the heat. But anyways, that's the place to start. I'm Aaron. This is my road to redemption. Thanks for watching. Y'all be cool.